People probably think my family and I are crazy because we take on multiple things, multiple new adventures, but to us, that keeps us going. We thrive off of that.
This is the Swino Creative Podcast. I'll be your host, professional photographer and video content creator, Brian Swino. In this podcast, we will discuss all parts of business, marketing, mindset, creativity, and self-improvement. Sometimes with the help of a special guest to provide some incredible outside perspective.
Hi, I'm Ellee Douglas. I am 21 years old and I live in Lebanon, Missouri. I think the best way to describe me is an entrepreneur. Not only do I have a full-time photography business, but I run a boutique with my sisters called Sisters of Oak Boutique. And I also manage the Mighty Oak Lodge. So I have a lot of eggs in my basket and I love staying busy and I love the entrepreneur world. It is so much fun.
Is it like a super big challenge being so young and having a lot going on?
Yeah, it honestly is. And I have GoCap students and I was chatting with them yesterday. And sometimes because I am so young, I work with a lot of people that are older than me, wiser than me. It's almost intimidating in a way because they will ask me my age and I'm like, I'm 21. Hi. And they're like, oh, we're like in our upper 20s or early 30s. And I'm like, trust me, I know what I'm doing, but it can be intimidating. But I also feel like it's a good thing because I am in a season of my life where I'm not married. I don't have any children. So I have the opportunity to be more busier than you could be as a parent.
As a parent who got into this right after deciding to have children, I would definitely say like run with this part of your life.
No,
and
for
like,
sure.
You know, push what you can while you can.
Yeah.
So what got you into photography to begin with? Of all of our talks, I don't think I've ever found out what actually you picked up a camera for.
So I have always been interested in like the creative side of things. When I was younger, I used to have my sister pose or model in the front yard. We would go by trees and really explore the outdoors. And I always had a camera in my hand. I also loved nature. I'd go out, take pictures of animals, all of that fun stuff. But it wasn't until 2020, it was actually October of 2020, I decided that I wanted to try to be an entrepreneur, try to take my business to the next level. So I drove a truck. I was a country girl, I guess you could say. I sold my truck and I used that money to buy a camera. And I'm the kind of person that when I go all in, I'm going to go all in. So I bought like the top camera that everybody had recommended, the top lens, and I just stepped fully into photography without looking back. And it has honestly been the biggest blessing in my life.
So you mentioned the Mighty Oak Lodge,
Yes.
which is your family-owned now wedding venue?
Yes, so we are leasing to own the Mighty Oak Lodge, so I manage it. So that is actually how I got into wedding photography. I never wanted to be a wedding photographer because it sounds very intimidating, like you are capturing someone's most important day of their life. And I never wanted to take that step because I was so afraid to even step foot into that world because it is a whole other photography world. But through the Mighty Oak, I had brides that started getting interested in hearing that I was a photographer. And that is actually what helped me step foot into the photography and wedding photography side of things.
Mm-hmm. What did you start with? Like, was it seniors or something like that?
Yeah, so I started with seniors and families, and then I obviously was just asking people, like maternity sessions, if anyone wanted that. I was kind of just like a little bit of everything, but now solely my main focus is weddings and couples. I do book seniors and then obviously maternity sessions if they need it, or families, but I'm starting to become more limited on that side of things versus what I started with, and I'm really stepping foot into making wedding photography my full-time gig.
Yeah. Is it a challenge to be managing a wedding venue and also a photographer? And maybe you probably do have a lot of weddings where you're kind of playing both ends.
No, I am. So I've had 5 weddings now where I have photographed it at the Mighty Oak, plus I'm like managing it, running it. And I feel like a chicken with my head cut off most of the days that I'm doing that, because I do grow close to the families that are booking at the Mighty Oak because they work with me throughout the whole process. So on those days where I'm photographing, they're also asking me questions. And so I'm running here to tell this person this or running back to take a photo. So it can become difficult. And I most of the time have one of my family members on site when I'm photographing at my venue, just because I don't want to have to be in that position where I have to be multiple places at once.
What are some of the challenges about owning or managing a venue?
Yeah, so owning and managing a venue there's a lot of challenges, honestly, and it's not what I thought it was going to be when I stepped foot into that position. For instance, I feel like our wedding world is going more into like white venues and very modern, timeless venues, and I am managing a barn, which it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I think the Mighty Oak Lodge is beautiful, but I have had challenges where people do compare our venue to what our wedding world is as of now. And so finding people that want that barn vibe, that barn feel has been a huge challenge. Also, just the amount of communication I have to have with my brides throughout the process. As a wedding photographer, you talk during the beginning and then you will check in so often throughout the process. But with the wedding venue and managing that, not only am I meeting with them when they book, but they're setting up meetings like every month to go over decor and details, and we're ordering tablecloths. So there's a lot of communication, more than I had expected. So that has been a huge adjustment for me. It was a challenge at first, but I feel like now that I've been doing it for 2.5 years, I am getting better at the challenge that was ahead of me.
Yeah. Do you like photographing a wedding better and stepping back and just doing that one role, or managing the venue for someone else shooting it? Like, what are the pros and cons of each of those, I guess?
Yeah. So I'm going to be real honest. Photographing a wedding is my number one. And I have learned that. At first, I didn't know what my number one was. And I honestly went back and forth for a long time, figuring out what was more important, where I felt like God wanted me to be. And after being in both positions, I would 100% be the one on the side of photographing a wedding than managing the venue, just because that's more where my heart is. And I managed that venue when I was 18 years old. So I am now 21, and I have seen the pros and cons throughout both different careers. And I really feel like I would rather be photographing a wedding than managing it.
What's some of the stuff, like the main things you've learned from managing, especially being such a young person doing that and stepping into I guess people think of managing a venue, it's like that middle-aged woman, who's poured her heart and soul into this venue. That's what people kind of think.
No, for
is
sure.
the stereotype of that.
Yeah.
So what is the challenges of being so young, but also just the job in general?
Yeah. So for one, like I mentioned earlier, I am 21 years old, and most of my clients are older than me. And I feel like one of the biggest challenges for me is that I feel like people, because I'm young, can take advantage of me or think they can take advantage of me. They can't. I feel like I know how to speak to them, and I feel like I am mature enough to be in situations where I work with older people. But I meet with a lot of people that feel that way, and feel like since they are older than me, they can kind of control me. So I have to really be careful about that. That has been a huge downfall when it comes to managing a venue. Another thing, I didn't build that venue. I do love that venue with all of my heart. And but I was just never in the position where I designed it. There are some things I would change. And so when I meet with people, and when I'm talking to people, there are some instances within the venue, where I love it, but at the same time, I feel like there are things that they say about it, and I have to back it up. And I am well, I wasn't the one. I get it. I get your concerns, but I am just here managing it. I do love this venue, but I do see your point of view, and there are some things I would change.
Yeah. So you guys not only have a venue with family owned, but you decided to go on ventures with your sisters.
Yes.
You guys have a podcast. You guys have a boutique.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that sort of aspect?
No, for sure. And that's another thing. People probably think my family and I are crazy because we take on multiple things, multiple new adventures, but to us, that keeps us going. We thrive off of that. One of our biggest like life mottos in our family is to be set apart. And that's something that I feel like as a Christian, as a business owner, I want to help make things better. And that's where I thrive. And so us getting into all of these new adventures is so much fun. And another thing, all of these new adventures that we get into, they have been placed in our lives. Like we never for 1 second, like came to these people and asked. They always come to us. So to us, that seems like a God thing. And so we always take them on and we always have fun doing it. My sisters and I opened up a boutique. We have been open for 1.5 years. It's called Sisters of Oak Boutique. That is something where my older sister, she's a realist. She really is. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like I'm a big dreamer. So when we opened up the boutique, it was more of something that I pushed to do. And my sister just joined on for the ride. But we have been open at our boutique for 1.5 years. We were in store for 1 year and then decided to close, which I know that's something we're going to talk about. But other than Sisters of Oak, I also do the venue, like you said, and photography. So it's a lot. It really is.
And then you decided to start a hat business too.
Yeah, let's just add that on. Truckers by
yeah.
Sisters. There's a new trend going on right now. It's called trucker hats, where you get the patches, you get to pick your patches out, and then we stamp them on the hat. And so we followed along on this trend, and it has been so much fun. We do pop-ups around our community, and it has been a lot of fun for my sisters and I.
Was that something you guys just saw that was kind of being a trend, and you just wanted to see how it would go, like in our area?
So we saw a lot of people from like the Texas area doing it. There were like, when we started, I think there was one place in Springfield that did it. So we were like, okay, let's bring it to Missouri. Like, let's hop on this before anyone else does. And now that we see so many people around our area that have decided to do the truckers, which I don't blame them. Like, it is a fun adventure. And they're adorable to wear. I'm a hat girl. I love wearing hats. But we decided to jump on it, and I am so glad we did.
Going back to photography, what are some of the like skills that you think are essential for photographers, not only wedding photographers, just photography in general? Yeah,
so I think some skills that you need, honestly, this is probably scary for some people, but you have to have good communication skills. Not only are you communicating through email, through phone calls, FaceTimes, whatever it is with your clients, when you are in person with your clients, I was actually telling my GoCap students yesterday, I feel drained after a session sometimes or a wedding, just because the amount of communication you have between you and your clients throughout the session or the wedding is exhausting. So good communication skills for sure. You also need to be creative. There's so many different parts of the creative side of things, but you need to know how to pose people, how to go about editing an image and all of the calling and all of that. So communication skills for sure, creative side of things. That's probably my top 2 things when it comes to what you need to be or what you need to do as a photographer.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Yeah. Especially the communication.
Oh my goodness.
Knowing how to operate your camera.
Yes.
That's like a gigantic thing too. Yeah. No one wants to be standing in front of a camera, which is already awkward. And then the person's like, I don't know what these knobs do.
Yeah. No, I still remember when I was young watching YouTube video after YouTube video. I would even make like little Post-it notes of like what aperture is, what ISO is, what shutter speed mean. And I would look at that in between like my photo shoots, just studying it. And you really have to take time into studying what your camera is before you can go out and shoot a session. Because if you don't know, sorry, but you're in trouble.
Yeah. I think you mentioned about taking your sisters and like practicing photos. Yeah. Is that how you got like, because you kind of came into the sphere around here, and then all of a sudden you just like took off. Yeah. Like it was like
Yeah.
I saw you and then saw you everywhere.
No,
like
exactly.
a month later.
So that's how it was. So I started just with my sisters, my family. Word of mouth is huge. And that's something I've learned throughout my photography career is shooting one person or asking people to model for me. That is something that also kind of got my foot into our community. I would do a lot of styled shoots, a lot of like model calls. I would do giveaways of free sessions. And that's kind of how I got my feet into the community. And then obviously, like you said, with my sisters, I would practice with them, with their families, all of that fun stuff. And then once I got into the Mighty Oak and I had my first wedding there, my business just took off. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, whoa, I've been doing this for 3.5 years now. And the growth I see every year is unbelievable to me. And I just really feel blessed to be where I am today, honestly.
Do you think that having the Mighty Oak and doing photos there, is that a hindrance almost to you for being a wedding photographer that goes, like you go all over the place and take photos, different venues, you don't just shoot at that venue. Do you think that might hinder you a little bit? Or do you think it helps you to be able to meet more couples, and if they don't end up going with your venue, they might still have you as the photographer?
No, for sure. So obviously I feel like when I first started, I felt like it was more on the side of things where it helped me because I did meet a lot of couples through the venue and it pushed me. But I'm going to be real honest, this year, about 80% of my weddings are at different venues, which keeps me away from my venue, which is kind of something like I've been thinking about, my family has been thinking about, because although that was a stepping stone in my life and I feel like God had me at that venue to help get me to where I am in photography, but that's something as I move forward I need to think about because I can't be there every Saturday like I was the past 2 years. So that's a decision we have to make. Do we hire it out? Does my family just take my role on? We are making hard decisions.
You're running out of sisters to take stuff on.
Exactly. So that is a hard decision that I am making because I am at a different venue every weekend. But it did help me in the beginning. So I feel blessed for that.
What's your favorite venue in we'll take yours out of it.
Yeah, no, take it out. It's fine.
What's your favorite other venue to shoot at in like the Missouri, like mid-Missouri area?
That's hard. I love Greenhouse 2 Rivers. I really do. I love the aesthetic of it. I was mouthing about the wedding world and how it's all white and stuff, but I love it. Like I do. And I love how aesthetically pleasing Greenhouse 2 Rivers is. It has your white, it has your glass. It has a really good outdoor area as well with the taller grass that everyone loves, all the greens. So I would say that's probably one of my top 2. The other one is Red Oak Valley, which I don't think a lot of people know about that.
I'm not familiar with either one of those.
No. So Red Oak Valley is past Rolla. It's in Owensville, Missouri. And I've had one wedding there. I actually have another one this fall. And it's really wide. It's like a half chapel. And then they also have a wedding reception area as well. So it's a really pretty venue. And they have the red barn and the white barn. So they have kind of like the two aesthetics. So people that do more like the rustic and barn feel can book there, and also the white and neutral and modern.
Like you're going into different areas too, like that, like Pastorala. And have you went out of state yet to shoot weddings?
So I haven't. I have actually had a lot of inquiries about going out of state. I'm going to be real honest, I'm not a big traveler. And that's something that's very different about me versus a lot of girls that are my age in the photography world. Like they're listing places. I'll shoot here for free if you book me this, and this. I would travel and I think it's beautiful. Other states are way prettier than Missouri, if I'm being honest. But with where I want to go and me thinking into the future with my, like having a family, a husband, I don't want to be out of state every weekend. So I'm trying to build my business here where the furthest I travel is like 3 hours versus traveling out of the state or out of the country every weekend for a wedding.
Yeah. Then you can make a day trip.
Oh, exactly.
Even after a whole wedding day, you can still make it home.
No, for sure. And that's one thing, like I love sleeping in my own bed. If I can get home after a wedding, like even if it's midnight and I'm driving 3 hours, I usually come home. I usually do not choose to stay in a hotel.
So you're pretty active on social media and is I think we talked before about growing social media. Like that's a thing you're actively wanting to do.
Oh yeah. hey, I want to be an influencer. I'm a wannabe influencer. And I think everyone knows that and can see that. But I have no shame in that because I honestly love social media and I love being creative on social media. And when it comes to my businesses, I book 75% of my clients for my weddings off of Instagram. So that's really what I have pushed throughout my business. I've pushed it to my GoCap students. Without social media, I would not have a business. And it's scary because I think about what if social media crashes one day or my...
Or like Facebook just went down.
Yeah, that was yesterday, actually. I saw that. And actually my Instagram went down too. It would not let me get on there. And I think about that and I'm like, okay, word of mouth is good, but I book most of my clients off of Instagram, Facebook, and I need social media.
Yeah. Is there any like specific strategies that like there's a lot of stuff you can either do the I'm just going to post everything or you can be like super strategic about it.
Yeah.
Or you can be kind of a mixture of both and like I'm like the opposite of like everything has to be perfect before I post it and then I end up not posting as much because of
That's
that.
me.
So it's kind of a hindrance to me. Is that something you're looking at this year of like really growing the businesses through the social media stuff?
Yes.
And are you trying like do you have a plan essentially? If so, what is that plan?
No, so I feel like I still do not know social media. I learn something new about social media every day. I've tried like the posting once every day for a week and seeing if I grow through there, which I know you have to like post for a long time in order to see that progress. And that's something I just don't have the patience to do sometimes. And also Reels. Reels was a huge thing last year. And I know social media is always evolving, always changing. So it's something to learn. And I feel like there's so many people that have started and have only been doing photography for like a year. And I see they have more followers than me. And sometimes I'm like, okay, this is frustrating. Like I want to give up on social media. But at the same time, this year, I want to push harder than ever. Even if I do fail, I still want to push harder than ever on social media. My plan is to post at least 3 to 4 times a week once busy season has started. I've kind of planted my feet into slow season. I've been posting like twice a week, trying to keep up on stories because they say to post 4 to 5 stories a day, which seems like a lot, but...
And this is primarily Instagram
yes,
for you?
This is primarily Instagram. I feel like that's kind of where like social media fits me best is through Instagram. I've tried Facebook, no offense. I feel like it's for older people in a way.
I get like 99% of my business through Facebook.
Okay, I take that back. Maybe.
All you old people out there.
Sorry. Okay. But I don't know. I feel like my younger clients, like who I'm wanting to attract, my ideal client is on Instagram. So that's kind of where I've placed my footing for 2024 as I am trying to grow on social media. Another thing is like posting reels. I want to try to post like so many reels a week. I'm thinking like 3 to 4. Some people say every day. That just seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
But I am trying this year to really post more on Instagram, more on my stories. I've even encouraged my GoCap students to keep people wanting more. Like, for instance, I see you even post stuff like huge announcement coming or stay tuned for this. Catching people's eyes and letting them know that something is going to happen soon is super important through social media.
Yeah, like whenever we got this building,
Yeah.
like the build up to that.
Oh, yeah.
And the photo of me just standing it, like I did the like YouTuber pose.
Oh,
in the
exactly.
Middle. That has the most engagement of anything I've ever posted.
Hey, and I was one of those nosy people. And I even tell people, I'm like, honestly, no, not everyone really cares about what it is, but people are just nosy. They really are. And they're going to want to know what you're doing. So go ahead and leave them wanting more from your account.
Yeah. Is that something you really made a conscious effort of, is like seeing who your target audience is? You're going for like that, I guess, mid-range younger couple, like early mid 20s sort of thing.
Yes, no, for sure.
And like those people are on Instagram versus on Facebook or like TikTok. You might not really.
No.
TikTok's very hard.
Yeah,
to like build a business off of. I feel
yeah,
like
for sure. And I feel like for me with TikTok, the videos that I think are going to blow up don't. And then the videos that are just random do. And so I've been trying to put myself more out there on TikTok. honestly more personally than I have through my business. And that's something this year I want to try to get my photography business on TikTok, because I know that is like one of the main platforms in our world today. So I want to grow on TikTok as well. But again, it's just taking time. People don't understand how long it takes to create a post or a video. I know for me, my girls that are my GoCap students laugh at me a lot because I really care about how my feed looks on Instagram. And to other people, they probably don't even take time to look at the feed. They're probably just swiping through, looking at every post. But I usually do 3 color photos, and I'll do a black and white, and then 3 color photos, black and white. And it makes my feed look very symmetrical and pretty. And that is something where it takes me hours before I make a post. And it comes to like what you said, where sometimes you don't even make the post because you don't feel like it's right or perfect in your eyes.
Yeah.
So
I actually like that they're here because I've had both of them and I've sat with both of them making posts and be like, okay, I want this photo, but I don't know what I'm going to say about it. And then I'll pick a different photo and be like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say about it. So that's like the thought process that goes into this stuff. We probably overthink.
Oh, we do.
To the max. It seems to be paying off.
Oh,
for like
yeah,
we have lives. You know, we support ourselves with this. So.
No, for sure.
So let's talk gear a little bit.
Okay.
My favorite thing.
Yes.
So you are another fellow Canon shooter.
I am. Yeah.
Canon has infested our area.
We're boycotting Sony, right?
So what's your favorite camera body and lens combo for like a whole wedding day?
Yeah. So I am going to be real honest. When I stepped foot into the wedding world, I knew nothing about gear, especially when it came to photography. I knew nothing about gear, anything cameras. So I really looked up to JC Overstreet. Obviously, she's amazing. And Bailey Morris. They're both amazing people, amazing in the photography world. And I messaged them and I just said, hey, like, you might not want to tell me because some of the creators don't like to tell their business and what they're using because they see it as a competition, not them. They were so gracious with me. I was a young, like 17, 18-year-old girl texting them, asking exactly what camera body I should get, what lens I should get. They both recommended the Canon 5D Mark IV and then the 35 millimeter 1.4 lens. So that's what I went with. I jumped fully in and bought those 2 things. And that's what I use. And I know a lot of people like changing their lenses and I need to be better at this, but that is like what I solely use for everything.
Just the 35?
Just the 35. I have a 50, they call it the nifty 50 or whatever. I have the 50 millimeter 1.2. And I honestly never use it.
Really?
I should. I need to. I need to be better about like switching my lens. I really do, because I feel like it creates your gallery, I feel like very versatile versus just like one lens, one focal length for everything. I really do need to be better at that this year.
Well, we talked about off camera.
Yes.
At the racetrack, we talked about your potential upcoming
upgrade.
purchase and upgrades.
Yes.
You could have 2 camera bodies.
Okay.
And have 1 lens on each camera. That's what I do.
Okay.
It makes it super efficient to just pick up the camera with the lens already attached that you want, you know.
And I actually do have a second camera body. It's the same. It's the Canon 5D Mark IV. And I have even a harness where I could attach them to me. I don't know why, but I feel most comfortable with just one camera. I need to be better. That is one of my goals. But I am looking into upgrading very soon, like within the next month, to a mirrorless. Not because I necessarily want to, but because I feel like that is where our photography world is going, and I don't want to be behind in the change. I want to be ahead of the game, and you are one of the people that have been persuading me and pushing me to do that, and I appreciate that. And if I upgrade that, I will also be upgrading to the 24-70 lens, and that will give me the ability to zoom when I need to and get the different focal lengths throughout a wedding day.
Yeah. And you can lock those lenses too at the 35 for most of it. And if you ever need to, punch in a little bit, you have that. Yeah, That's the good thing about those. And especially the Canon, I assume you're going to go Canon 24-70.
Sorry, yeah.
So
I'm going to go with the Canon R6 and then I'll get the Canon lens if I do go with that option.
Yeah.
So.
Which they're great. They are.
Hey, everybody has their preference and that is perfectly fine. But another reason why I need the zoom lens is because I do have weddings this year, some Catholic weddings where I have to stay in the back. So I'm going to need that. And I know I do. It's just making the jump because it's a lot of money. But I'm almost there. Yep. I have talked myself into it, I think.
So how much of a jump is this from what you're current, like what is this purchase going to be?
Well, I mean, like the amount
like the dollar amount.
Well, it's like almost.
It doesn't have to be exact. Like what is a roundabout ballpark figure?
For the lens and the camera, it's going to be like $5,600.
Yeah. A lot of people, if they hear this and they're not a photographer, a professional or whatever, is going to hear that number and be like, slight heart attack.
Oh, exactly.
But that is, in the grand scheme of things, that is not that much of an investment.
It's honestly not.
For what you're going to get in return of the more ergonomic, like body, like all of the things.
No, for sure.
So I know you were going to have a heart attack whenever you mentioned that to me the other day.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out again. Like it's going to benefit you multiple times over to make that slight investment.
Well, that and too, like, through my eyes, I'm thinking, okay, I just need to book this many sessions or this many weddings to make it back. And with being a photographer and doing weddings, that's honestly where the money is in some of the areas. So I can do it. I'm just scared, but I'm going to do it sooner rather than later.
How do you go about making those decisions for whether it's a big purchase or whether it's like a jump to a different, like where you were starting off doing seniors and then deciding to make the jump to wedding photography? How do you go about rationalizing those decisions that are like, it might not even be a big jump, but to you, it might be a big jump? No, for
sure. Something I always tell people, and this probably sounds terrible, but fake it till you make it. There's a lot of days that I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know if I feel like the decisions I'm making are a good idea for my business. But so far, all of the decisions I have made, I feel like have benefited me. And it comes to the point where for all of these decisions I've made goals where like I need to be here before I can do this, or I need to have this much money before I can make this investment in my business. So I really have set goals for myself before I've jumped into something else, which has pushed me to want to even like reach those goals so I can keep upgrading, keep growing. Something that I was talking to my girls about yesterday. I felt so nervous coming into the 2024 season from slow season. I don't know why, but I had 3 sessions in a row this weekend. It was like my first time shooting for like a month. And I honestly felt so nervous, and like my neck was aching because I just felt stressed on my way to my session. But I think it's because I see so much potential and I want to grow to a certain place this year through 2024. And so I have like so much pressure on me because it's my business. It's me. I tell myself where to stop growing. It's all up to me. And that's something where I love it, but you also have so much pressure. And I bet you feel that way too. Like you have a family to support and everything like that. So you probably have a lot of pressure on yourself as well.
Yeah. I'm similar to you though, and I just like see whatever's next and I'm like, just jump for it. So like it's a good thing and it's a bad thing sometimes.
Honestly.
Like the worst part of my photography business for me was the year after I jumped off full time. Yeah. Because the goal was always to make it as my living full time. And I felt like I achieved that goal, and then I kind of just like relaxed a little bit and didn't push myself
any harder.
And I just kind of got into this state of like, and like my work was suffering because of it. Like I felt like I wasn't being as creative. It was because I wasn't pushing myself. And that's how I've always lived my whole life. And I was an athlete. Like I pushed myself to the limits there. And then like getting out, doing all those things, making a living, always try to push. And then that was like the one time in my life where I felt like I had achieved what I wanted to achieve and like just stepped back.
Yeah, you got comfortable with it.
Comfortableness is the worst.
It really is.
For people that think along the lines that we do. Like some people are okay with, like I worked at a factory. Yeah. A lot of people are okay with just like punching the time clock.
No, they are.
And they work there for 30, 40 years and then their hands are crippled because they're operating these tools and stuff all the time. I didn't want to be that guy. No. And if there was anything that helped me pursue this even more, it was going into work and seeing those people every day and knowing that wasn't going to be me.
Sure.
So,
well, and you're honestly too talented to be that guy. Like, you don't need to be working in a factory. And I'm honestly so glad that you took that step for yourself, because look where you're at now. Like, you would have never known that. And I think for me, I like being uncomfortable. Like, even today, I felt a little nervous going into this, but I like those uncomfortable moments because I know that I'm growing myself. I'm growing my business. I'm growing within my clients and what I need to be for my clients. So even though being uncomfortable is not fun and it can be scary at times, I thrive off of being uncomfortable. And I feel like that really helps me within the businesses that I run.
I always try to find like the biggest weakness that I have and then just work on it until it's not.
No.
Like I was always a sprinter through school.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like long distance running I'm like trying to take that up. Or like lighting. That was one thing me and JC talked about that on the podcast. Lighting was something that intimidated me a lot. So I just learned everything I could possibly learn about it.
Exactly.
That way the knowledge of lighting isn't a limitation for me anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
well, and that's the thing, like, even though we might feel uncomfortable about it now, if we keep working towards that, we're not going to be uncomfortable in that area anymore. And I feel like some people don't even want to get into that area to learn to be comfortable with it. But for me, like, that's what I want to be better. Yeah. I want to be better, not just in my businesses, but who I am as a person every day. And so that's something I really push to do.
Do you ever think about that? Like the fact that the way that we think is so much different than like the majority of people. Just like they're cool with waking up and have like if they have a job. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but
not.
It's kind of crazy to think that like we always surround ourselves with people like us.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So we're in this world and then like most people's world is not like what we think about and what we talk about and all those things.
No, and it's honestly hard for me. Even my sisters and I think very differently. And when we got into a business together and I thought one way and they thought another way, it honestly created some hard discussions just because they don't have a mind like me. And I have to remember that because sometimes I'm very blunt and honest. A lot of people say I'm an Enneagram 8. Like, I'll just tell you how it is. I don't mean it in a bad way, but I just want you to grow and I want to push people to grow. So thinking that people have a mindset unlike me is honestly hard for me. And it's something I want to be better at understanding because I feel like I am hard on people that don't think like me sometimes. But it's okay. It's okay to have a different mindset. It's just crazy how us as creatives are so alike.
One thing that helped me with that was like recognizing that like my fiance is one of those, like she has no creative bone in her body at all. So I'll like edit a project and be all excited and show it to her and she's like, okay. Yeah. I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, dang it. Like, I want to like impress you.
Exactly.
You know? But like on the other hand, I'm like, not everyone has to be like that. And the fact that the majority of the people don't think like that, it sets us apart.
It honestly does.
So it's actually a really good thing.
It is. And that's why we do what we do. We're good at what we do because not everyone could do this job. So it's a really good thing.
Yeah. So one thing I do a lot, and you mentioned YouTube earlier, sitting and watching YouTube videos. Yeah. Is that something you still do?
Yeah. So honestly, not really anymore, but it's something like I'll watch YouTube. I just usually watch like vlogs. It's a different kind of style of YouTube that I like to watch. So you're going to it for
more like entertainment and escape?
Exactly.
Rather than...
Yes, but I am telling you, without YouTube in the beginning and people that were knowledgeable in the area of photography, I would not have a business because that's how I learned. It's not like I could go up. I mean, I could have, but I was scared to just go up to a photographer and be like, show me your camera settings. Like I wanted to know before I went to them, like somewhat of what I was doing. So I think it's beneficial. I know you are creating YouTube videos and they're informational. Yep. And I think that's something you should continue to do because it's hard to find that information on YouTube sometimes. Like I remember searching for hours before I could finally find something that made sense to me. But without that, I would not know anything about my camera.
Just from like an outsider perspective from you, this will be beneficial for me to know. Yeah. What were the things to do with cameras that you watched on YouTube that resonated with you? Yeah. Was it the way that people explained certain things or like, was it more of their personality, them showing more of their personality and that they did photography as well? What was it about it that made you like, connect with them?
I am a very visual learner. So for one thing that I went to on YouTube was aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. That was like the main things. I had no idea, and everyone was telling me you need to shoot in manual mode. So I was like, okay, I can do it. I just got to learn how. And so showing that visually, like they were actually showing them like shooting a session, or they were showing the focal lengths and like what it looked like, or if you have your aperture this way or your shutter speed this way, the image is going dependent on like speed and the quality or where you're shooting.
Yeah.
That really helped me. So me being a visual learner, that's what I looked for. Also, another thing was just personality. Like I obviously didn't want to listen to someone that talked like this and was very blunt. Like I wanted someone who was excited and like wanted to help people grow. And they were excited about what they were doing, which I feel like is something you're good at. Like you love what you do. You're excited about it. And that attracts me when I'm listening to you talk.
That's something I'm like right now, I'm about to launch a brand new YouTube channel. And I'm like, I'm trying to think about all those little things of like, I know I have the information. I know I can present it in a good way. And that's why I started those classes, honestly, was to just like, because standing in front of a room full of people is a way different feeling than like I've made over 1,000 videos of myself.
Wow.
So like, I know how to talk to the camera now. Like that's normally a barrier for people. I got past that barrier a long time ago. But like presenting information like that is way different than presenting information with a room full of people who might not know anything that you're talking about. And you got to give them information and make sure that they're digesting it.
Yes.
Which is like having like GoCaps kids or like I have another kid from Camdenton that's job shadowing me too. So having him and like seeing the little light bulb moments and what I had just said to make that happen. I've been like mentally making notes of that, of like, what are these things that are getting through to people, and
for sure,
like how to explain it.
Yeah. And I feel like even us having these people job shadowing me, I feel like it's pushed me to like want to be better within my business and want to be more knowledgeable for them. So I feel like same for you seeing the light bulb moments in these students has really helped you like, okay, this is what I need to share. Or this is what I need people to be more knowledgeable about in this area. So I think it's great what you're doing. And
half of it too is just like the mindset of that you're going to do this and like all of that. Like they will testament to this. That's the majority of what I talked to them about was like the way that you think about things is going to separate you way more than your work is. Like,
no, for sure.
There's a ton of good photographers. There's a ton of good photographers in our little tiny town.
Oh yeah.
So the thing that's going to separate you is the way you treat people, the way that you deliver the work, and like keep in contact with them afterwards. You know, make them feel like they had the best time in the world. Yeah. And then you have great photos on top of that.
No, for sure.
So why would they not recommend you to everyone they know?
Exactly.
And then they're your biggest fan essentially.
Yeah. No, we actually were talking about that yesterday, is creating your brand and who you are. A lot of people book me for just me as a person, not even my work. And that's something I really appreciate. And although there are so many photographers in our tiny little town, there's so many people that want images. And another thing, like with them wanting images, if they see your brand and who you are, you attract people that are like you. Sometimes, I'm going to be real honest, like I'll see, oh, this one of these brides, she inquired to me. Oh, but she's also following this person, this person, this person. But the people, and I might see them that they book someone else that I know personally, and that's fine, because I get the clients that want me and that value me for not only my work, but who I am as a person. They're a lot like me, and there's a big market out there where you will find your ideal client and they will find you. Like, you should not worry about the other photographers. And that's something I try to tell them, because I know like they're even competing against each other. Yeah. I mean, we're competing against each other, but it's not a competition. Yeah. It's really not.
I mean, some competition is good.
Yes, it is.
But viewing it as if Ellie gets a wedding and I don't, then I don't like Ellie because of that.
Exactly.
That's not the right.
It's terrible.
That's called a scarcity mindset.
Exactly.
You think that someone's, just because they got something, is taking away from you. There's plenty to go around. I was talking to another senior photographer, and they had that sort of a mindset. Yes. And I was like, every single year from our high school right here, there's like 400 kids.
Oh, exactly.
I cannot shoot 400 senior sessions.
Never.
I wouldn't if I could.
No. Yeah.
So like, there's more than enough in that. And then there's newborns, there's weddings, there's every type of photography you can think of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Figure out something. Like you don't have that's like the fastest way to fail is to compare yourself to other people and think that they're taking something away from you if they get something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I feel like at first that was one of my biggest like limitations, was I thought that there were too many photographers in the town of Lebanon, but I would say only 10, maybe even 5% of my clients are from Lebanon. And through social media and through word of mouth, I am reaching other areas where it's not a competition. I love the community of our creative world. And that's something that I want to be better at, is communicating with them, because I love every photographer. I like the competition of seeing maybe what they're doing and something I could push to be better to do through my business. But they're all my friends, and I never want them to think that, oh, I don't like them because they're doing better than me.
Yeah. Whenever you first start, it's like that is a natural human emotion. Like,
It is. It is.
And especially starting so young, like you did, like it's almost like defeating feeling. Oh, they got this, I didn't. You know?
Exactly.
So it's like a really easy to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But that's like the fastest way to fail.
It is.
The one thing I think is kind of fascinating, I don't know if this is our area, but I feel like it's probably just, nationwide.
Probably, yeah.
People that get into a creative field like photography, they get into it because they feel like we're just taking photos.
Yeah.
And you can charge $1,000 and take some photos.
Exactly.
Super easy.
No.
And then they get into it, and there's it's like a revolving door every 2 years.
It is.
So I've been doing it for almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
So I've seen like these different waves of people come in, and then they realize it's actually hard, and you got to actually run a business, and you got to actually keep people happy.
Yeah.
And then they get out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next wave picks up a camera. So like you're one of the ones that have lasted a couple revolutions so far. So I feel like if you can get past like that 2 to 3 year mark.
Exactly.
Like I explained this in the class that I did. There's like a disconnect whenever you first start of like what you can see in your head and what you can get out of the camera.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to do it almost like super consistently for like 2 years.
Yeah, you do.
And then if you get past that point, it's like all of a sudden the light bulb goes off.
Exactly.
And you can make what is in your head happen on the camera.
Yeah.
And then you're like set.
No, yeah.
You just got to get past that little sticking point.
You do. And it's scary to grow your own business. And I see all of these like people I know pop up on Facebook. Hey, I'm starting a photography business. And I'm like, good for them. But there is a lot to it. And one of the reasons I do feel drained after a session is not only am I posing this couple, I am having to set my camera settings. I am having to make sure my lighting's right. I'm having to actually take the picture and produce the picture. And then I am communicating with the people all day. So they don't see that. They just think, oh, I get behind the camera, I take a picture. No, there is so much more to it. And I've seen actually have a photographer friend. She just moved to California, and she posted yesterday on TikTok where someone's mouthing saying, I don't understand why you would invest in a photographer when I could take that with my iPhone. I'm sorry, but you can't do that. Like, it's not the same.
That's something me and Ramsey talk about a lot.
It's not the same.
If someone thinks that, then I'm more than happy to let them do that, because for one, either if they are happy with an iPhone, then they should just do that and save the money. Yeah. But if they want to value the art for what it is and the person doing it, then they can pay for it.
No.
So there's like two outcomes. Either they're happy with that, or they realize that it's not actually that easy, and then they end up hiring someone anyways, and they just wasted their time.
Oh yeah. And I can promise you, like, for one, I don't want, like you said, I don't want those people. Like, I want people that value my work. But for two, I could take a picture of my iPhone and edit it, and I could take a picture of my camera and edit it. And I promise you, you would want the one on my camera versus my iPhone.
I mean, that's what you pay.
Oh, exactly.
Pay $5,600 to upgrade to.
Exactly.
You know? That's why.
Yeah. And if someone doesn't want to invest in me, then I don't want them to, because that would just be miserable on my side of things.
I feel like after you're established and after that couple year mark, instead of going into the like onboarding everything, you get to the point of you almost want to convince people that like, I'm not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And weed those people out, and it makes your life way more easy. Yeah. Are you to that point too?
I am. And I talk to my family about this a lot. I have turned down a lot of weddings this year. Not only one big factor is I just don't feel like I'm a good fit for them. But two, like, location is a big thing for me. Some people like disvalue what I charge and stuff like that. So I have turned down a lot of weddings. And in my family's eyes, it's like, Ellie, that's like more money. And, you know, why would you be turning it down? But I'm to that point where I can. And I feel so blessed, because I was talking to my GoCaf students. Like, I started out on like Bennett Springs, and nothing against this, but like pretty much campground weddings. Like that's where I started. And now I'm at big venues, and you have to start somewhere. But I can't even tell you how blessed I feel to not be, or to be in that situation where I can make the option of who I photograph and who I don't.
Well, it's like that whole thing of reaching an ideal client.
Yeah.
Like you are getting inquiries from people who see what you do
exactly.
at those venues, and they want that type of thing for them. So then that's what you're getting. That's the hard part too about starting. And I told them both this is you kind of got to do stuff maybe for free.
Oh, exactly.
Like you have to build some sort of a portfolio for people to see, to know, like if they don't know you exist, they definitely can't hire you to do it.
Exactly.
So you got to have something to show them.
Yeah.
So I encourage them to even go out and shoot each other.
Yeah.
Then you each have photos of each other.
I know. Yeah.
To use.
I told them yesterday, I said, girls, I don't like, you're probably going to hate to hear this, but the amount of free sessions I did when I first started is what got me to where I'm at today. I was like, do giveaways, like get your name out there, give away free sessions, go up to someone and be like, hey, will you model for me? Because without that, people would have not even known or understand, or wouldn't have even valued what, or paid my price to have me, because they don't know you until you start putting work out there. And that's a big thing with social media. That's when I started posting and showing my work, is when I started getting bookings.
Yeah. Let's talk about pricing for a second.
Oh,
you mentioned it there for a
one.
second. Well, how do you go about determining your price? That is across the board the hardest thing to do, I feel like, for any profession, but especially for creatives. Like you're essentially putting a number value to yourself.
I know. And it's so hard, because sometimes I'm like, am I worth that much? And then I'm like, okay, but I am. And I'm honestly probably worth more, but I'm so scared about raising my prices. I have been every year. I've made that a goal to, even if it's not a ton of it or a big of a difference, I'm still raising them a little bit. But that's hard. Like it's really hard. And I mean, I've had people ghost me because of my pricing. Like I just have. That's just part of it. But I honestly, I can't give you a good answer for like how I set my pricing. I really went off of like what other people, and I hide my pricing online now just because if I do need to, I do a lot of add-ons. And so I make custom packages for each of my brides. So I don't share that on my website. But I honestly looked at other photographers that were in the same stage as me, their websites when I did start, to kind of even see where the photography world was. And over time, our economy is crazy. And I want to make it affordable for people, but at the same time, I have to be charging what I'm worth. And it's a really hard balance. It really is.
It doesn't ever get easier either.
No.
Like the farther you get into it, it doesn't make it any easier to raise the prices, or to me anyways.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's already hard. And I can't imagine as I continue to grow and push forward with my business, I feel like it's only going to get harder from here.
Bridging the gap from pricing, that is one funnel, I guess you could call it, to help reach your ideal client.
Yeah.
The people that are having this type of wedding that you would like to do are probably going to be paying this range for the location, for a photographer. So that helps weed out some of the people you don't want.
It does.
And is there anything that you do specifically on social media, on Instagram, that is tailored to those clients?
No, for sure. So, I mean, there's obviously been some things that I'm specific about posting just to reach those ideal clients. Or, for instance, if I love a venue, I will post more from that venue than I would another venue that I've shot at. And nothing against every wedding I've photographed, I feel like is beautiful in its own way. But to reach the ideal clientele that I want, I am picky about like what I post, what I produce, what people are seeing from me. Another big thing is styled shoots. As I was starting into the photography world, I went and paid for a ticket for styled shoots at like dream venues, or if it was like a dream setup, or a dream like vision board I had for what I want my brand to be, I would go to that and capture photos from there and then share about that and share about it over and over again until it was finally implanted in someone's head. Like, oh, that's Elle's photography. Like that's who she is. That's what I want for my wedding.
Have there been any people along the way that have helped you kind of shape your journey? You mentioned JC. any other like role model sort of people that like
for sure.
whether you look up to in terms of life or like your business specifically?
No, so honestly, like there's so many photographers I look up to. I really appreciate, especially, I mean, the people I've already mentioned, but JC especially, like she has always asked me to like second shoot for her. And that has helped me. I've second shot for a lot of other photographers as well. And all of the photographers that I've worked with that have even given me a chance, like being so young, when I started second shooting, I was like 18 years old. And the fact that they would even reach out to me to help me grow is something that I could never thank them enough for. And that's how I'm feeling now. I started offering mentorships this past year. I want to be that person. And even for these girls, like my heart is so passionate about helping them grow. And I keep asking them, they're probably tired of me asking, but I'm like, you want to come with me to this wedding? Like, I want you to see this wedding, or I want them to grow, because having JC and other photographers ask me to go with them to weddings have been huge. Even you, like, I've asked you probably a million questions throughout the weddings that you were a videographer at. I was either a second shooter or a photographer at. Having people that like want to pour into me and help my business grow and me grow into the creative world is so important to me.
And then passing that along.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Like
it's super gratifying also.
It is.
Just to see, like we were talking about earlier, like that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
If you can be the one to connect a dot for someone, then they take that and they can, pass that down to someone else down the line.
Exactly.
And all that stuff. It's cool to think about.
It really is. And these girls, my Go Cavs girls, they might be like, oh, she didn't help us at all. But like, I want to be that person for them, or the person they can text at any time of the day and be like, hey, what would you set your camera for this? Or help me with this. Like, I want to be that person. I love cheering people on. That's a big part of who I am. No matter what it is, like, I feel like God has a plan for each of our lives, and I want to cheer people on through that. Like, that's so important to me. So I love being that person for people, and I hope that they see me as that person, because I want to help them grow every day.
How has the mentorship program went for you? That's something I started the classes. That was kind of my next step in that. Is that something you've had people reach out? Is that something that you've had people do or not do?
Yes. So I have had a lot of people reach out, but a lot of people don't like to make that investment. Like, I've had a lot of people more reach out and be like, okay, I want to job shadow you, but like, do I have to pay pretty much? Yeah. Or they'll be like, oh, if you ever need a second shooter, like, I want to do that. I actually just posted last week, I'm not offering second shooters built into my packages. You have to add that on as an add-on, because I feel like I'm at a place where I don't necessarily need one. It's just if the bride, it's more of a want, if that's what the bride wants for her wedding day. So I put on Instagram that I was looking for an assistant, and obviously it wouldn't be as big of a pay as I would pay a second shooter, because they're not capturing images, but they're assisting me. And the amount of people that are messaged me, I had like over 20 people message me saying, I want to get into the photography world. I would love to do this. But it's not necessarily like they want to pay for my mentorship. They more or less just want to be like, hey, show me, which is fine. Like, I appreciate, and I like feel so honored that people want to be my assistant and tag along with me. But it's been slower than I expected, my mentorship program, but I pray like as I grow, more people will want to invest in that for what I'm worth.
Well, I think if you put more out too, maybe along the photography lines.
Oh, exactly.
Like what you post a lot of is like specifically for your clients.
Exactly.
Not really targeted to other photographers.
Exactly.
Sort of stuff.
Yeah, that is something like I feel like if I want to get better at the mentorships and growing that program, I need to post more knowledge and things I know. And that's something I want to do more of throughout this year. I'm going to be real honest. Sometimes I'm like, am I there yet? Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, she's only been in the photography world for 3.5 years. Like, I don't really, you know what I mean? Versus you being in the photography world for 8+.
Yeah, but see, I still have that feeling.
See, man, maybe I'll never lose that feeling, but I have that feeling.
There's always going to be someone who's done it longer than you.
Exactly.
There's always going to be someone who knows more information than you.
That is true. That is true. And
that's always a thing.
And the thing is too, like, I feel like there's some photographers that more on the technical side of things, equipment side, like you're so knowledgeable. If I ever have a question about my camera, technical side of things, I'm going to come to you.
And I just say, get a Sony.
Yeah. You say, get a Sony, upgrade to mirrorless. Yeah, you have some rules. But I I mean, I don't know. It's really
But
hard.
see, like
it really
I said
is.
earlier, I wasn't that.
I know.
I had to like recognize that is a limitation for me.
Yeah.
Then recognize the equipment needs to not be a limitation for me. So I'll learn everything about it.
Exactly.
The lighting was a limitation. I shot all natural light until I needed to, and I didn't know how. And so I said, still to this day, like I was telling them before, there's 2 or 3 nights ago, I was up until 3 or 4 in the morning watching binge watching. I found a new YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They had a whole
and
bunch
you're
of different
watching
stuff.
all this stuff.
Watch every video they've ever made.
See, and that's one thing. I need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable and learning all of the more of the technical side. But I feel like I do have a lot of knowledge about like posing and weddings and communication skills and social media, even though I have grown on social media. I started with 0 followers and I'm almost at 2,000. So I have grown. It's been a slow growth, but I feel like I do have some of that knowledge, and being so young, I feel like I do have knowledge in that area of how to be a young wedding photographer in the wedding world. So even though I might not be super comfortable with that yet, it's something I want to do better at. I can provide knowledge of what I just listed.
Yeah.
But it is hard to disvalue yourself in those areas. I feel like everyone does it, and it's something that I need to be better at not doing.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you specifically want to learn? That's one I was talking to him. I'm trying to figure out what my next class is going to be. I want to do lighting. I want to do all the nerdy stuff like that. But I don't know how many realistically people are going to care about that at all.
I definitely would, because I need to be better at lighting. I actually had a photographer message me last night and say, hey, I don't know anything about my flash. Like, could you explain to me how to work it? And my exact words to her were, if I'm being honest, I only know like about the flash enough for me to use it and like produce an image with it. I have learned the flash in my own way, and I know what buttons to press to make it flash brighter or be more dim. Yeah. I couldn't sit there and explain everything to her. So that is something I would love to learn about, even like the extra lighting you use other than the on-flash camera. Like that is something I would be interested in. So that is a big thing, and that's probably what the next step in like what I would want to learn is all of the lighting scenarios and situations.
Well, that is the thing I like the most.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, am I going to have 2 people?
No.
Sign up for a class?
I'll be there. We can make our GoCap students come, right, girls? So that would be good.
I think of things as in terms of like nets.
Yes.
So should I be casting a wide net? That was kind of my first class. It's just like a beginner photography. I taught them about the exposure triangle, the shutter speed, aperture, and all of that stuff. Like you were mentioning earlier.
No, exactly.
Like once you know that information, you can pretty much do anything with your camera.
You can.
And you can shoot intentionally knowing what you're going to get.
Yes.
So that's why I did that. And I had a whole bunch. I had 46 people show up for the first class, which was
amazing.
Nuts to me.
That's amazing.
And I feel like they left with information.
Yeah.
I had like 10 messages for people after that. Like, hey, I used that information. I shot photos of my grandkid, and I had them send me like shots that they had done and stuff. And
that's amazing.
So I feel like the information got across.
Yeah.
And then I put it up online now. So people, if they weren't there, they could watch it.
Yeah.
And I got several messages for people. And I'm just like trying to figure out like, what is the next step? I don't want to do like a part 2.
No. Yeah. Well,
I don't know what a part 2 is to an exposure triangle class.
Another thing too, like even probably for me, like bringing in other creatives, like if you wanted to do like, maybe if like a posing class, I think you and JC might have talked about that, like having her come in and like doing posing, or if I was better in an area and you wanted me to come in, or us doing the class together. Like I feel like these are
all the ideas we were throwing out yesterday. I talked about you, Bailey Morris.
Yes.
She's like a professional finance person.
Oh, exactly. And she knows,
and she's a creative.
Yeah.
So like that would be super beneficial for not only me to learn, but like if I could put a class on and split the profit of the thing for her coming in and sharing her expertise. And
hey, I need help with tax stuff. So Bailey,
I think everyone needs help with tax
I would
stuff.
be coming to that class as well. But I think that I know for me, obviously if you're so knowledgeable and you have so much you can share, but bringing other people in as well and just getting different perspectives and sides is what has helped me grow. Yeah. So I feel like everyone would love that for sure.
Awesome. I'm planning one for March right now. It'll be the end of March. I don't know what it's going to be about yet, but I'm narrowing that down. So if you have any other ideas, shoot them to me too.
your way, but I will definitely try to attend as many as I can for sure.
So let's leave the camera world for a minute.
Okay.
Before we wrap up the podcast, a couple little tidbits for the audience that have stuck around so long. What do you do whenever you experience like self-doubt or setbacks? We talked earlier about your guys' boutique and what happened with that. Some could see that as like a setback.
No, for sure.
It's kind of like an evolution though, rather than a setback, but.
No, for sure. So throughout my life, I'm a Christian. Faith is a huge part for me. So I look at those things. I look at setbacks. I mean, obviously I'm disappointed like every other person in this world, but God is a big part of my life and I really trust his plan for my life. And although I go through those seasons, and I'm telling you that boutique season of us closing the store was a super hard season for me. Probably if you said a word to me, I'd cry because I was just super emotional. But I really feel like as a business owner, you have to be ready to evolve in different scenarios, different situations. And I felt like that was what God was leading us to do. For instance, my sisters and I had an in-store boutique here in Lebanon, Missouri. We hated our location, like hated it. But in the moment, it's what was best. It was right next to the Mighty Oak. That's where I was all of the time during that season of my life. And we felt like, okay, God opened a door. They came to us. They're like, hey, we have this spot. We know you mentioned opening a boutique. So we had to run with it. So from that, we were open there for a year. And then after being there for a year, we started having doubts about location because we didn't have as great of a community turnout as we had hoped for having a store here in Lebanon. Most of our sales were online. So why it felt so obvious, why would we be paying for rent in a building when most of our sales were online? So that's when we started praying about our next steps. And we finally decided to go all online. We've actually been closed for a little over a month where we're just doing online orders. Thankfully, I had like a little photography studio. My parents own a mechanic shop, or my grandparents own a mechanic shop. And inside of that mechanic shop, there was like a little photography studio for myself. We turned that now into the Sisters of Oak warehouse. So that's where all of our stuff is set up. And it was hard. That was a major setback for us. A lot of hard decisions, a lot of hard discussions. But through that, within a business, even when you do have those setbacks, you have to look at, okay, what's best for your business? Because financially, you can't succeed if you don't feel financially stable within your business. Like, that's important. So we looked at those setbacks and we found hope within those setbacks. And we really felt led to do that through the Lord. And it's been great. And I look at those hard times, I'm thinking, man, a couple months ago, I was in tears. I did not want to leave our storefront. It was so pretty. We had designed it. We poured so much heart and money into it. But now, where we are now, I'm so thankful for that. So through the setbacks, I'm a very hopeful person, and I know not everyone's like that. It's hard to be hopeful sometimes. But through those setbacks, I see hope, and I find hope through it. And I try to push through as best as I can, even though I might shed a couple tears here and there. And I feel so thankful that we closed and made the hard decision that we did, because I feel like we're in a better place now.
With your guys' podcast, I was going to ask you earlier.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys are just kind of doing for the fun of doing it? Or is that something you're going to intentionally try to like brand and grow?
Yes. So my sisters and I like to talk. We really do. I think we grew up, like, our grandpa was a pastor, and then they owned a mechanic shop. So I grew up on that side of things where, like, we were always communicating with people. We always kind of just had to learn to be loud voices.
Yeah.
We grew up singing in church. We would travel and sing in churches, and that really helped me be a better communicator, I feel like, in a way. So when it came to our podcast, we're like, okay, let's do this. Like, this sounds fun. We felt like and we started out as a Christian podcast. We felt like we wanted to be lights in this world for the Lord. So we started out fully a Christian podcast. Well, then my sister had her baby, and this was like 2 years ago when we started this. She had her baby, and we stopped because life got crazy. That's when I was starting the Mighty Oak. Everything was busy. And so we took a 2-year break, and then we came back a couple months ago. And it's actually, I told my sisters this week, life got busy again. My sister was sick. Her family was sick for like 3 weeks and we didn't record it. And I'm like, girls, we got to get on it. But it is something we want to grow and do better. And we came to the decision, we're like, not only, I mean, our lives revolve around God. Like, that's who we are. That's like who he is within us. And so instead of it solely being like a Christian podcast, we just want to share our lives with people and tell people about our lives. And hopefully they can see Christ in us through our podcast. So it is something for sure we want to grow and be better at. And we need to be better at recording because finding time is hard.
Yeah. Well, if you need a spot to record, we're making a couple different podcast sets in here right now.
That's amazing.
We will have that ability also.
See, that's what I told them. And I think that's what's hard is like most of the time we're doing it like we have like a little office space in our basement at my house and we've been recording in there, but there's also so many distractions like upstairs. Mm-hmm. And so having a spot to come to is awesome. And I'm so glad that you are starting that in our community. So my sisters and I can come here and get away and escape for like an hour, record the podcast, and then go back to our normal lives.
You could introduce video also and different stuff like that.
Well, and that's something we want to do. And I'll probably have 100 questions for you, but I know you can help us through that. Yeah. So
what's something that you haven't done that you want to do?
Oh.
Doesn't have to be photography related. Doesn't have to be business. It could be anything.
I'm going to be real honest. I honestly want to just share my life with people. I mentioned earlier, like, I want to be an influencer and not necessarily like, I don't want people to be like, hey, look, it's me. Like, I just enjoy that. Like, I enjoy that aspect of life. I love sharing my clothing every day. Like, I am a very big, I wouldn't say like, oh, I know all the top trends and fashions. I'm not kind of that, but I love my style and I kind of just roll with it. I would love to share that. I just love to share who I am and my life with people. We haven't really talked about this, but to Levin and I-44 Speedway, my dad's promoting that this year. So I'm excited to help with that this year. That's kind of something that I'm looking forward to within the year.
You mean someone in your family is taking on another gigantic project?
I didn't want to mention it because it seems like so much, but that, and so I'm excited to help with that. That's kind of something I'm looking forward to this year. And I also, again, want to grow my influencing. Maybe I won't make it. Maybe I won't get there, but hey, it's fun trying. And so I'm going to continue to try.
Is that another aspect of it for you? Or does that fall within, like say your photography umbrella is the personal influencer. Is that underneath that umbrella, or is that a you separate thing? And do you view it like that, as like that's your personal brand, and then you have your photography business?
No, I honestly want it to go hand in hand. And that's another thing, like I feel like growing my platform individually would help me reach more people and reach more people that are more like me and who value me for who I am and what I do and my beliefs and everything like that. So I honestly want them to go hand in hand within all of my businesses, even with my boutique. Like my sisters and I, again, we enjoy sharing our lives on social media. Some people might look at us and laugh, but hey, we enjoy it and I really don't care, honestly, what other people think. And within growing our own platforms, we want to be able to push out our businesses. So for instance, the boutique, sharing our clothing online. Again, like I said, people can see our boutique clothing on ourselves, which helps as a visual. And then also within my photography, I want them to see like, oh, this is who she is. I want to book her. Like, I love her work and I love who she is as a person. And I want it all to be like one happy full circle.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I'm trying to figure out now too, is like I have the Swino Visuals business.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make it to where other people can be within that business and it doesn't have to be just me doing things.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy another thing that I thought would never happen.
Yeah.
But and then the YouTube stuff, this podcast.
I know.
I'm going more me, branding me as like a personal brand.
Yes.
And then the YouTube channel will be like me.
Yes.
And there won't be a direct correlation between my business and that, but there will be crossover.
Exactly.
So my thought is kind of like if someone wants to learn how to do stuff with a camera, they can go to my personal brand and learn everything they could possibly learn.
Exactly.
If they don't want to do that step and they see that and they want to just, oh, that's too hard.
Yeah.
I want to hire that out. Then I have this other platform also. You can hire me to do it for you.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like fill those gaps.
It's hard. The balance is hard. And someone made a comment to me the other day. They're like, all I see on your social, like I share every one of my businesses and everything I'm doing on like my one social media because I want it to reach those people. But it looks messy because there's like this and that. And again, filling in the gaps is hard, but finding that balance, there is a balance. You just have to find it. And I'm still struggling with it too, but I'm trying my very best.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an actual
I don't know.
real
We'll
answer
see.
for that.
We will see.
It'll either work or it won't, I guess. So.
Exactly. It is what it is.
Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything else you want to talk about?
I just honestly just want to encourage people. Being a young entrepreneur, I feel like I have seen it all. I feel like I've learned so much. When I first started, my first like actual business gig was when I was hired on at the Mighty Oak Lodge. And I did not know what I was doing. I always tell people, and I mentioned this earlier, fake it till you make it. But honestly, faking it till I make it has grown me into who I am today. It has grown my businesses into what they are. And I just really want to encourage anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur, who wants to start their own business, do it. You're going to fail. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. But seriously, do it. It's so much fun. And if you keep pushing towards your goals and you keep pushing to be better, it's going to work. Like, it's going to work out. I know even you mentioned it, like taking that full-time step into this role, it's so scary. Like sometimes even for me, I'm like, whoa, Ellie, like what did you do? But at the same time, I've watched the Lord bless me over and over again. And when I have those doubts, he fills in the gap. And I feel so blessed. I love my clients. I love the people that surround me. I've loved the people I've met through my businesses. My clients have my heart, and I feel like they have all shaped me into who I am today. And I just honestly feel so blessed. I really do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Motivational speeches.
Yeah. Hey, you can.
There's another branch of the business.
There you go.
Motivational speeches.
Hey, add it on. It won't be anything more than I already do.
Yeah, you don't have enough on your plate.
No, it's okay.
So if anyone has made it to the end of this podcast,
yes,
they obviously really like you. They might put up with me for this podcast. So how can they reach out and find you on social media platforms, all of the things?
Oh goodness, my 10 social media platforms. So my photography account is els.photo.graphy. So Els Photography, find me there, Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at ellie.douglas on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, TikTok. Mighty Oak Lodge is on Facebook, Instagram, all the platforms, and same with Sisters of Oak. Go follow us. Go follow me.
And I'll add the links, the comments on YouTube and in the little description thing on Spotify. I'll put at least a couple of them so they can get a hold of them if they want to.
Yeah, you can find me through one of those accounts. But not only me through my personal business, but my sisters and my family through the businesses we run. Even Love and 944 Speedway, we would appreciate your love and your support. Even though we're doing a lot, we do it out of love and we do it for you guys. And we want the community to come together and really support us. And we appreciate it a lot. So follow me. If you can't find me on one of the links you listed, I'm sure you can. You can find me.
There will be 107 of them.
So. Yes, 107 to be exact.
Well, I want to say thank you for being here. Not only just being here, but being you and who you are. You've been like an inspiration to me to see another. I still see myself as the young.
Hey, you are young.
I'm only 32.
Hey, you're young.
So
that's young.
I see you and like what you're doing at such a young age, and I had this conversation with them too. It's crazy to think of how far advanced you are for your age.
I appreciate
and
that.
The fact that you're taking more on and all the responsibility, that's cool for someone like me to see that you're doing that and that you're crushing it and you put your focus on the wedding business and it's taking off and it's just super encouraging for me too. So thank you for doing what you do and being awesome to talk to. And
I appreciate that
too. So
hey, well, I'm always an encouraging person. If you need an encouraging word, the business world isn't easy, but we have each other to lean on, and that is what is important.
If I need a motivational speech.
Yeah, if you need a motivational speech, just call me. I'll text you one up. But thank you for having me on here today. Thank you for being an encouragement for me and for being someone that I can come to with questions about anything. I really appreciate you, and I'm super excited to see you've already done so much since you've been full-time, and I can't wait to see where you go. So thank you so much, and I'm praying and thinking of you as you grow and evolve into who you're supposed to be. So
thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.